All right, boys. As I mentioned in the last episode, we are done in the front, and it's time to enter the Oh, yes, it's happening. What's happening, you might ask? Well, in the trunk is where all the magic is happening. That's where we are going to convert a low pressure fuel system to a high pressure, fully forced fuel system. First thing I do want to show is this actually already had some previous mods in the trunk. As you can see here, there is a fuel filter and a fuel pump that was operated off a switch inside the car. This fuel pump may have been one of the problems I was having, but I think really this all was because I didn't get the Webers tuned. I know, I should have just gotten the Webers tuned. That would have been a smart decision. But we're not here for smart decisions. We're here for shenanigans. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with a year later after buying the car. My goal now is to get the car running and driving, albeit probably not fully tuned, but running and driving at the 1 year anniversary of when I actually bought this car. I'd like to drive it for that 4th mile in the first full year. Unfortunately, what that means is I gave myself another stupid deadline because I got like 2 weeks before it's officially a year. How do I get myself in these situations? I don't know, but I keep finding myself there. There must be a problem. Guess we'll never know. Anyways, so as you can see, there was a fuel system in the past that was not going to be adequate. Original thought was, hey, just replace the low pressure pump with the high pressure pump. That's the simple minded thinking that I thought I could do. It's going to take a little bit more because not only do I need to replace the low pressure pump with a high pressure pump, also requires a better filter. So add another element. But the thing with high pressure fuel systems is you have to regulate it. So that adds a third element in there of a fuel pressure regulator. Normally, you find these things in the engine bay on the fuel rail, but we have two problems. Number one, it's a tiny engine bay. There really isn't space for this fuel regulator. Also, would like to keep that engine bay nice and tidy. And my main goal with this whole conversion was to pop the hood and for 9 out of 10 people on first glance to think, oh, cool, Webers. For the nerds, they'll go, those Webers look kind of funny. Then they'll look closer and see that it doesn't say Weber on it. They'll say that it says Genvi on it. And instead of made in Italy, Bologna, or even Spain, which is where mine were made, it will say, that's right, made in the UK. So that means high pressure fuel pump, bigger fuel filter, and the fuel pressure regulator are all going to go in the trunk. So how are we going to do that? Well, I would bring you in, but there's really not much to see. Oh, you still want to see it? Okay, hold on. So what you're seeing is the space that I will be using. Being that I don't have a trusty pointer, I will be using my breaker bar as a pointer. This is the fuel tank, as you can see. Fuel filler comes in, puts fuel in the tank. This is actually a baffled fuel tank that the previous owner had gotten. Very happy about it. It's a good system. That is where the fuel comes out of the tank, and it went over here to the old system that had the fuel filter, fuel pump, right back to the feed, going inside to the engine bay. So down here, I'll be utilizing this space. It'll probably be a fuel filter right around here. We'll wrap it around, put the fuel pump up here, or down here. And then I'm actually gonna put the regulator up there because this area will have a spare wheel in it. And I would rather have the regulator in view when everything else is covered up. those things will make noise. So I also want to isolate them. And by those things, I really just mean the fuel pump. So the fuel pump and the fuel filter will be hiding here underneath the tray. That will cover all of it. It will be covered in carpeting. Fuel pressure regulator will be visible just in case I need to see what's going on, because who knows, I might actually have a problem down the road, and I would rather not have to dig out everything. I'd rather just open my trunk, peek inside there, and see what the fuel pressure is running at. So why don't we go and take a look at all the parts. What we have is two different types of fuel line. That's going to go right there. That's going to go right there. And then we have this, which will go from the tank on this side into the feed right here, out of the pump into the regulator. Regulator will tell us what pressure we're running. And then from here, it will end up into this guy, which goes to that fuel line that you saw inside the engine bay. And that, my friends, is the fuel system in a nutshell. So I guess it's time to get to work. I've been putting this off because I've been trying to finish that guy, which I guess I'll pause real quick and talk about what's going on up front. There's a lot of little things. Hopefully the next cut or soon, this won't even be here and it'll be inside the engine bay. And I can focus on just the fuel components themselves.
Okay, so we have fast forwarded like a week or something, and as you can see, nothing really has moved. Minor progress up there. These are still here, so not that much progress, but we are back. And I have a little bit I wanted to add to it, but the goal for now is let's start getting things mounted, which means some fuel line is gonna get cut, and hopefully we can get these guys in. Now, I'm a very resourceful person. The Lotus came with a lot of spares. I happened to get rid of a few, and then I remembered, hey, I've got these random bagged items that are a uni part with a part number GX737, made to British spec, keeping in the theme of British resto mod. Now, what the heck are these? These are exhaust hangers, I think it was when I looked. They cost a couple bucks a piece when I found something that resembled this part. And I should already have a blade on me, so rather than flex my muscle, we'll bring the knife in that I cut myself with in the past. So what are these for? This is a nice little setup with couple bolts, couple washers, but it's a rubber bushing that's studded on both sides, and guess what? Overconfidence, kids. I was overconfident. I thought this would fit with no mods. How about you? Nope. That's okay. I should have known. Why would it be that easy? In my brain, wait a second. Nope, still a monkey brain. Okay, it looked like it was a different stud on the other side. Now I've got 3 of them, but there are 4 holes. Luckily, there's already one mounted in the trunk wall. That's also not the right size, but with any kind of luck, could be the same size as this, so I only have to drill these all out to one size, perhaps. But let me show you what I was talking about. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, which was a week ago, but a minute ago. This will be mounted against the wall, but not directly on it. So I want that gap, I want a little bit of flex, I want these to be able to shake a little bit, and I don't want to feel that shaking, especially on the fuel pump. So the next thing to do is to actually take each of these items, measure the length that I need, and then I'm going to start cutting some hose. Yeah, I'm not too psyched about cutting this one specifically, but the guy who sold it to me at a great price assured me it's very easy to do. So What's the worst that can happen, right? So quick, like 2.5 hours, almost 3. Plan changed a little bit. I have good news, some bad news. I don't know if I want to call it bad news or not. But if you recall that original space that I wanted to mount all of this stuff was down low, especially the pump and the filter. I wanted to mount them down low. It's just not going to work. I think I mentioned it in the last video about how this car is small. Newsflash. There is not a lot of space to put a lot of things. So the old fuel filter and fuel pump were quite a bit smaller than this. So they fit down there in that little corner and still allowed the spare wheel to fit. Now, my goal with this car from the beginning has been to maintain all of those things, because one thing I do not want to deal with is like a AAA if I get a flat. So this will have a full-size 5th spare mini light. Already bought that. But I'm going to keep the jack, all of the like hardware, so that roadside service can be done by me, because I don't want anybody to try and figure out where to put a tow hook or where to ratchet down this car. I'd rather deal with it myself. Now, that said, none of this stuff would fit there. So the area where I wanted to fit just this fuel pressure regulator, I decided I wanted to use that whole space for everything. So, got my CAD design out, and this is how much space I have to work with. It's not much. So, what I designed, I ended up using 2 of the old exhaust hanging things. There was one that was already in the car. It has a longer stud than the other 2, so I was able to stack them and essentially hook myself with that. I've got this set up here. So this is coming out of the tank into the fuel filter. It will get routed around into the fuel pump. And what I really wanted to do initially was to put the fuel pressure regulator right there, connected directly to the fuel pump. But this return line kind of goes right where the other fuel line is. So I'm gonna have several really short Teflon braided lines. So this will be, somewhere from, it'll just be a few inches. But what I really want to do, and I'm gonna go back to anplumbing.com, used to be an Earl's retailer. I'm gonna go and see if there's a way that I can just have this as one hard line. Because let me bring that in close. Can you see the gap? Not much. And so to make a fuel line go right there, it's kind of scary. It's only like an inch. The other thing I wanted to do, like I said, I wanted to just eliminate a bunch of fittings here, but I'm not going to do that. I will try and see if I can get this all set up so you can see it. Let's see. Probably not, but you are a pain in the ass. So as you can see, let's try and, so it'll sit like so. And that means the fuel pressure regulator will be sitting over here. Again, a short line. This is maybe 2 inches. And then what that leaves me with is that final outlet that will go to the feed that runs up to the ITBs. Very excited for all of this. I do have to say though, I am pretty happy with how this looks. Let me get this guy out of the way. This one's being a pain in the ass. Come on. There we go. Thank you. I like this. This is compact. I've got all the bushings that I wanted, so there's a lot of isolation from all the vibration and the noises that are going to be coming from this guy. It's nice and tight and it fits really well. And I'm pretty happy with how this is coming. And I'm glad I'm ending on a good note. Hopefully, when we come back, this part is resolved. I'll have the backboard actually cut out of real wood, not paper. And I can start to mount this. I kind of have a game plan going with that. We'll see how it all shakes out.
All right, boys, the table is clear. What does that mean? Ta-da! Let me break down what I've done for you. For you. It's not for me. I do this for you guys. Fuel tank to the fuel filter, done. Nice and tight. Everything's good. I had to route the fuel line this way because the way I had shown you previously wasn't going to work. Nice little loop. Goes into the fuel pump. Fuel pump has to go up and over into the fuel pressure regulator. And then from the fuel pressure regulator, this goes to the feed that heads into the, almost said carbs, into the independent throttle bodies, into my Gen V Heritage ITBs. It's a little bit more loop-de-loop than I hoped, but it all fits nice and tight. Let me slide that picture in right here, how it looks in the trunk. And as you can see, it fits pretty well. Question people have been asking me, which I was waiting to show you guys, is these guys. I still have one left. There is 1, 2, 3, allowing it to be mounted to this wood panel that I created. I didn't create the wood. And it allows some vibration to be isolated here. Now, I also have a gap behind here because of that floor is actually not totally flat. There is little pockets that I cut out of the wood so that it sits flush on that panel, because those 2 little pockets are needed for the diff mount. Now, the gap I like because if this still is annoying or too much noise, I should be able to find a way to insulate the back area a little bit more to keep the noise in the trunk and not in the cabin. So what's left to do? A couple minor things. The feed into the tank needs to be finalized, and the return line needs to be finalized. Those aren't exciting to watch, and I'm going to leave those final bits for what I hope to God is the final episode before I can actually start driving this thing. I did make a list. Let me go get it. Actually, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to see it anyway. The list will keep me somewhat organized as I go through these final steps. So, mission accomplished. I was able to mount it all into the trunk. It's going to be a nice clean setup. I like the way that it looks. It's pretty subtle. It's all black. That wasn't intentional. It's just kind of how I ended up. All the fittings were black. The components were black. Even the Teflon line is black. So it's going to be hidden in the trunk. This was a fun learning experience. And it's a proof of concept, we'll call it. And we'll know soon if it actually works. You'll notice this area is now over there. So why don't you take a quick peek at that and admire it with me, because I think it looks beautiful. I'm going to call this episode complete at this point because effectively I wanted it to concentrate on what I had to do with the fuel system. It's taken a little bit longer than I hoped. A couple days away from the 1-year anniversary. Who cares at this point? And why? Because projects take time. And that last 10% always seems to take a lot longer than you think it will. And the other side of it is that the E30 is running great. Part of the delay was I took it to Buttonwillow last week, tried to make a video, didn't work out. If you haven't figured it by now, I'm not a great videographer, if that's the right term for it. It's just me doing my thing, and I try to bring you guys along, and sometimes it doesn't work. The last video I was out of frame like half the time, trying to be a little bit more deliberate, making sure I'm in frame when I set up the tripod and talk to um, you. And what can I say? I'm getting pretty excited because I do kind of see the finish line in sight. I'm hoping that the trunk area is going to be fully done fairly quickly. The engine bay should be done fairly quickly, and what that means is the only thing left is to get inside the cabin, and there's not that much to do in there. But that might take a while still to do all of those things because it's a lot of little things. So rather than yapping on for an endless amount of time and then having to trim 10 minutes of talk into 2 minutes, I'm just going to end it here. I'm going to say thank you. All right. So with that, I'm going to close this one up. I got some work to do. It's nothing exciting for you to watch. So I'm just going to get to it. Take it easy.